Charlie Woods has spent the last few weeks collecting results that look like setbacks. He missed U.S. amateur qualifying by 6 shots. Days later, he came within 1 playoff hole of reaching match play at the U.S. Junior Amateur. Then, after surviving the first cut of the Junior PGA Championship, a third-round 77 ended his week. It looked like his momentum was disappearing. It wasn't, because hidden inside those finishes was a different story. At the U.S. Junior Amateur, Charlie opened with a 76 and responded with an even par 70, enough to reach a 14-player playoff. He didn't advance, but this wasn't another week where he disappeared before the pressure started. He was right there when everything was on the line, and that changed the question. A week later, the same pattern showed up at the Junior PGA Championship. Charlie opened with a 75, came back with a 70, and survived the 36-hole cut. Then the third round unraveled. A double bogey on the 10th was followed by 3 straight bogeys, and a 77 ended his week. Another frustrating finish. But again, Charlie had shown he could produce a round that keeps you alive in a strong field. The problem was doing it again, and that is what makes his situation so interesting. Charlie is not suddenly dominating junior golf, and he is nowhere near ready for the PGA Tour. His recent results show how much work is ahead, but they also show something harder to argue a year ago. The gap is getting smaller, and the next stage of his career is arriving at the right time. That is where the real opportunity begins. For years, almost every Charlie Woods story started with Tiger. Tiger won this. Tiger did that. Tiger was already here at the same age, but Charlie's next move gives him something more useful than another comparison. Time, stronger competition, and a pathway that can become his own. One player waiting on that path has already reached a stage Charlie is still chasing. What happened with him may tell us more about Charlie's future than any missed cut could. But before Charlie Woods could think about the players waiting at the next level, he first had to prove he could stay in the fight long enough to reach them. At the U.S. Junior Amateur, that looked unlikely. Charlie opened bogey triple, and after 5 holes, he was already 6 over par. In a championship where only 64 players reached match play, his week looked almost over. Then came the response. Instead of chasing shots and making the damage worse, Charlie settled down. He played the final 13 holes of his opening round in 1 under par and fought back to a 76. That mattered because his previous opening rounds at this championship had been 82 in 2024 and 81 in 2025. He was still outside the match play places, but now he had a chance. Tuesday would show whether it was real. Charlie responded with his best round yet at the U.S. Junior Amateur. He shot an even par 70 on Sasson Valley's Grace course, highlighted by an eagle at the 332-yard par 4 13th after driving the green, but the bigger number told the story. After being 6 over through 5 holes, Charlie played his next 31 holes in 1 under par. One terrible start had not ended his championship. Now, the pressure had somewhere to go. When stroke play ended, Charlie was tied for 63rd. 14 players were fighting for only 2 match play spots. For the first time in 3 appearances, he was not watching that battle from outside the cut. He was standing inside it, with his championship coming down to a playoff. Suddenly being close meant something different. 1 playoff hole separated him from something new. The ending was painful. Charlie attacked the par 5 playoff hole, found thick rough, and could not make the birdie he needed. He made bogey and was eliminated. He still had not reached match play, but this time, the distance between Charlie and the next stage was no longer theoretical. It was 2 spots and a handful of shots under pressure. He had put himself where advancement was decided, and that made what happened next even more important. And Charlie did not have long to sit with that playoff disappointment. Only days later, he was back in another strong junior field at the Junior PGA Championship, facing a completely different test. This time, there was no 14-man playoff waiting at the end. The challenge was simpler. Keep producing good golf for long enough to survive. Charlie opened with a 75, keeping himself in the tournament. Then he gave himself something to build on. In the second round, Charlie responded with a 2 under 70 and moved safely through the 36-hole cut. It was another example of the pattern beginning to follow him. A difficult opening round did not automatically end his week anymore. He could recover, find a score, and put himself back in position. But surviving 2 rounds and controlling an entire championship are very different things. The 3rd round exposed exactly where that gap still exists. Charlie reached the 10th hole with his tournament still alive. Then things unraveled quickly. A double bogey started the damage, followed by 3 consecutive bogeys. What had been a manageable round suddenly became a fight just to stop the score from getting worse. Charlie eventually signed for a 77, finished 6 over par, and missed the secondary cut. The comeback had run out of room. That result mattered even more because Charlie had finished 9th in the same championship the previous year. He already knew he could compete there. This time, the problem was not whether he could produce a strong round. He had already done that with the 70. The problem was maintaining that level when the tournament demanded it again the next day. One good round can save a week. It cannot carry the whole thing. And that may be the clearest picture of Charlie Woods right now. He is capable of scoring well enough to survive against elite junior players. He can recover from poor starts. He can put himself near the cut line, the playoff line, and sometimes the leaderboard. But the next step is turning those moments into 3 or 4 complete rounds. The ceiling is rising. The consistency isn't there yet. That is not a small problem, but it is also exactly why the next stage of his career matters so much. Charlie is approaching a point where better competition, stronger coaching, and a more demanding environment could become more important than any single junior result. And that opportunity is already waiting for him. And that opportunity is already waiting for Charlie. He is committed to Florida State for 2027, joining a recruiting class that includes Miles Russell. Several programs showed interest before Charlie made his choice. He was not choosing from one open door. He had options, and Florida State may give him exactly what he needs next. The biggest change is not the logo on the bag. It is the environment around him. At Florida State, Charlie will practice against elite amateurs, work with high-level coaches, play a demanding schedule, and develop without rushing toward professional golf. He does not need to prove everything tomorrow. He needs the right place to improve. And that pressure shift could be huge. There is another reason the move is interesting. Charlie is not arriving alone. Miles Russell is part of the same recruiting class. Charlie recently caddied for Russell during U.S. Open final qualifying, where Russell earned a place in his first U.S. Open. Charlie was not the player that day, but he was standing inside a moment most junior golfers never experience. That matters because Charlie is increasingly seeing what the next level looks like. He is around the pressure, preparation, and margins that separate elite junior golf from major championship golf. You can learn plenty on a practice range. You learn something different walking beside a player trying to qualify for the U.S. Open. Charlie is starting to experience both. None of this means he is suddenly ready for the PGA Tour. His recent results show why that would be premature. The talent is there, but so are missed cuts and uneven rounds. Florida State gives him something valuable because of that. Time. Time to get stronger, sharpen his game, and turn flashes into something repeatable. And that may be the real opportunity. For years, every step Charlie took was measured against what Tiger had done at the same age. College golf gives him a chance to move away from that timeline and build his own. Because being close to the next level is one thing. Proving you belong there is something completely different. And that is where Charlie Woods' story is starting to change. For years, almost every discussion about his future began with the same question. Could he become the next Tiger Woods? It was understandable, but it was also an impossible standard. Charlie is now reaching a point where the more interesting question is not whether he can copy his father. It is whether he can build something that belongs entirely to him. The evidence is still mixed. Charlie fought his way into a playoff for match play at the U.S. Junior Amateur and survived the opening cut at the Junior PGA Championship. But there have also been missed qualifiers, missed cuts, and rounds where one bad stretch has undone hours of good golf. That does not look like superstardom yet. It looks like a player still discovering how good he can actually become. And the environment around him is changing at the same time. Florida State is waiting in 2027, where the competition will become deeper and the expectations higher. Miles Russell will be there too, already carrying experience from major championship golf after qualifying for the U.S. Open. Charlie will not simply be surrounded by promising juniors anymore. He will be surrounded by players trying to make the same difficult jump he is. That is when comparisons become much harder to hide behind, because college golf will give Charlie something junior golf cannot: repeated pressure against elite players over an entire season. One good 70 will not define him. Neither will one bad 77. He will have to produce over and over again, travel, compete for his place, adjust to stronger fields, and eventually decide what comes after college. That is where potential either becomes a career or stays potential. And maybe that is why these recent results matter more than they first appear. Charlie is not dominating. He's not racing toward professional golf, but he is getting closer to situations where his own scores, decisions, and performances will matter more than the Woods name attached to them. For the first time, the comparison with Tiger is starting to feel less important than what Charlie does next. Charlie Woods hasn't reached the level people have predicted for him yet. There is still a long way to go, and nothing about that path is guaranteed. But the direction is becoming clearer. The opportunities are getting bigger, the competition is getting stronger, and Charlie is finally reaching the stage where his career can be judged on what he does rather than who his father is. And increasingly, that path looks like his own.